in the engine room of Africa's largest economy, where energy drives ambition and every barrel tells a story, we bring you the real picture behind the fuel in your tank and the forces shaping the future. From global price shifts to local refinery updates, from pipeline politics to power sector shakeups. We're not just reporting the news, we are decoding it for you. So whether you're a market player, an investor, or just a curious mind trying to make sense of it all, this is your weekly stop for clarity, context, and conversation. Time check, it's set 17 minutes past 12 o'clock. Good afternoon to you and welcome to Oil and Gas Watch on Smailz Radio 98.7 FM. My name is Blessing Robinson, and as you already know, we do this every Monday 12:15 to 1 p.m. I don't do this alone. Olatide Jeremiah is in the studio with me. Good afternoon to you, Jeremiah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope you're ready for this session as usual.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, it's about time. You know how we do it. For the next 45 minutes, we will take you through the petroleum news roundup for last week, and we will open the call lines for you to join the conversation. And we would always, as usual, have the A to Z of oil and gas, where Olatide Jeremiah gives us details from the oil and gas sector. So, from international tensions to local price shocks, it's been a roller coaster week in the oil and gas sector. Let's take it day by day and break it all down. Olatide Jeremiah is here, to dissect this with us. And like I said, last week was a roller coaster, but then we go through it one at a time. On Sunday, the 22nd of June, US strikes on Iran's nuclear sites spark oil price surge. And, we begin the week with a geopolitical flashpoint, one that sent shockwaves through global markets. And now to you, Olatide Jeremiah, looking at this story, how exactly did the US strikes on Iran's nuclear sites impact global oil prices?
Yeah. Good afternoon once again, listeners, and it's a pleasure being here. And generally, historically, what determines crude oil shift from high to low or from low to high boils down to tensions, war or conflict, and also demand and supply. But in this context, we are looking at the tension between Iran and Israel, and it started June 13, and that conflict went on for 12 days, causing surge of crude oil from $68 per barrel to $79 per barrel. That is over a 10% increase. That is, the last time we had that surge was in April 2022. So, thank God, over time, we were able to get a ceasefire from Trump through an agreement triggered by Iran, Qatar, and Israel. So I think it's a good one, because for every crude oil rise, we would have fuel rise in Nigeria and in other countries all over the world, because crude oil determines a whole lot. It determines fuel prices, it determines our exchange rates, it even determines stocks all over the markets. Thank God, this week we've had relatively low prices. As I speak with you today, price of Brent crude has dropped to $67 per barrel due to the ceasefire agreement between Iran and Israel, and that's a good one.
Having that in mind, or even that as a determinant to the fuel prices, what ripple effects should all dependent economies like Nigeria expect from such international escalations?
Yeah, it's a good one. The jack-up has helped our revenue, because our revenue was benchmarked. The 2025 revenue was benchmarked to $75 per barrel. So when you have an increase to $79 per barrel, that's like a $4 plus on, like a $4 plus, on our revenue. So for the revenue, it's a good one. But for prices at the pump, local prices at the pump, it's going to cause a decline. So it is a plus on the coffers of the government and a minus to Nigerians buying fuel at the pump.
Okay, for revenue, it's a good one, and that's coming from an expert. You already know Olatide Jeremiah is the CEO of PetroleumPrice.ng. So when he's dissecting these things, I believe he knows what he's talking about. And let's head over to Monday on the 23rd of June. Tensions grow as depot fuel prices spike across Nigeria.
Yeah. Following what happened on Sunday, I said earlier that for every rise in oil prices, you have a rise in fuel prices. They are intertwined. It follows that trend. And on Monday, local prices reacted to the oil prices. Local prices reacted to the global prices with a surge. But unfortunately, the surge was far higher than what we had. We had like a 10% increase in crude oil price, but locally we had close to 20% surge at the depot. So importers are beginning to take advantage of that rise of oil prices. So it rose from PMS or petrol. Diesel rose from 830, 835 to over a 900 naira in just 2 days. That is on the high side. So it's like a double increase compared to the hike in oil price. So, but thank God we've had a ceasefire. As I said earlier, prices have returned to normal. Prices are declining massively at the depot, and commuters, end users will start buying cheaper petrol at the pump.
Of this report from Tuesday,
Yeah,
it's looking at the spike of the spike in price and all that. How does this affect transportation, food prices, the daily life of an average Nigerian, an ordinary Nigerian?
Immediately we had that increase at the depot. 2 days after, stations across board jacked up their prices. So it's a trend. Oil prices determines depot prices. Depot prices determines station prices. And every end user gets to buy their fuel from the station. Every transporter gets to refuel at the filling station. So when that trend flows down to the filling station, you start seeing it's then going to affect the pockets of Nigerians. So looking at it, last week we had a surge. MRS announced an increase in their pump price across Nigeria, and other independent filling stations also followed suit. They increased their price from 880, 890 at the pump. Some of them increased it to 920, 930, 950. Some parts in the north, they increased to 1,000 naira because of that shock from the international price. It flowed from the international price down to the depot prices, down to the retail prices. So it is a trend. But thank God we are having a relief at the depot. As I speak with you, prices at the depot are declining massively because of the massive decline of the oil price. And the funniest thing is that it is going to take time before you see such reduction at the pump. Station owners have the tendency of not reducing their price immediately. They try to make up their capital, to make abnormal profit and all. So that is something the NNPC need to look into, to see how station prices should be quick to reduce price as soon as price is being reduced at the depot or international price.
We're actually talking about NNPC, in intervening on behalf of consumers and all that, because of this same thing you just talked about. Don't we categorize that act as greed?
For me, you are right to call it greed, because we understand that there is inflation and we need to do everything to ease off the inflation. By dropping station prices, it's going to play a massive role in easing off inflation. So we all know that the last report by NBS, fuel prices was able to influence inflation with over 3%. So it means if station prices keeps rising, and when oil prices or depot prices drops, it's supposed to drop proportionally If it fails to drop, it's going to keep inflation at that high level. So NMDPRA, I understand it's a regulated market. They don't have the responsibility to control price, but at the same time, they also have the responsibility to protect consumers in order to get fair prices. They could come in to say, oh, this pricing is not fair. Consumers are complaining, and with all of that, I'm sure retailers will drop their prices, and Nigeria will have access to relatively cheap price at the pump.
How best can we get the attention of NMDPRA to get involved in this? Because we keep saying that, oh, we hope that they get involved, they come in to regulate the whole thing. How soon can it happen? Because I believe that I'm speaking the mind of an average Nigerian out there.
Yeah. Currently, we are really advocating. We are on air, and I'm sure millions of Nigerians will be listening to us. So every stakeholder in the industry should always speak up. For every forum or platform you have, use that opportunity to speak up. Call on the agencies in charge of controlling, regulating the sector to come and look into it. So I am of the opinion that as soon as price drops internationally, it immediately reflects at the depot. It should reflect at the filling station.
Of course.
So consumers will be able to get relatively cheap prices, and it's going to help them reduce inflation, reduce even the economic hardship at the moment. Even transport fare will be reduced. So hopefully, as we keep advocating, keep talking with our different platform, NMDPRA would look into it and do something about it.
Hopefully, they look into it and do something about it. That takes us to Tuesday, the news from Tuesday 24th. This one says oil prices slump to $69 after Trump confirms Iran-Israel ceasefire. And it was like from tension to temporary relief, basically. A ceasefire announcement bringing about the prices crash. Now, why did the global oil market respond so dramatically to Trump's confirmation of the ceasefire?
Oil traders, they are quick when it comes to making decisions. So they followed closely Trump's decision or Trump input in making sure that Iran and US puts a stop to the conflict. And as soon as traders notice that move, it sends signals, and we start seeing tension and fears among traders, and price start dropping. So sometimes it also can be related to when there is conflict. Sometimes in April 2nd, when we had the tariff war from Trump, US, in a day, prices rose with over 10%. So prices internationally respond to certain issues when it comes to conflicts. Most importantly, it responds so fast. If you look at historically how prices have dropped in the last 10 years internationally, prices drop so fast when there is any conflict or there's any fear that this particular country is going to strike this particular country. Before you know it, there's a shock and price rises. And anytime there is also any information that prices that both country in conflict are looking forward to resolving, prices dropped. So those things influence increase and decline of prices all over. So I think one of the major factors that determines a sharp increase in international price is war or conflict. The demand and supply is very slow. When you have excess demand and a declining supply, the prices rise in a very slow rate. But when it concerns tension or war, the prices are always on the rise.
You said that, but that still takes me to this next question because I'm kind of curious. You're an expert here. So, is this price dip a short-term reaction, or could it be a signal to longer-term trend?
For the price at $68 per barrel, So many experts have given their forecast that is even going to drop further, because this ceasefire has come to stay, and for the fact that they are in talks on how to make this ceasefire permanent, we are not going to expect any rise in oil prices. And secondly, OPEC, the organization in charge of supply and demand of oil, they are working on increasing their supply. And you know, when supply supersedes demand, price drops. So currently I speak with you, OPEC plus, that is a body that is different from OPEC. They are working very hard to see how they could increase supply. So prices might drop down to $62-63 per barrel in coming days. And as soon as it drops, it is going to affect our prices immediately. We are going to get lesser prices at the depot and lesser prices at the pump.
Lesser prices at the depot and lesser prices at the pump. Hopefully, when that time comes, we will know. Okay, let's head over to Wednesday. The news for Wednesday, 25th says, why Libya has the cheapest petrol in the world. Now, I wouldn't want us to dwell on this, because you can as well just head over to PetroleumPrice.ng to read up if you really want to, know details on that.
Yeah, we could just give them a glimpse of why, surprisingly, people will be asking why Libya. Libya is a war-torn country. They've had issues relating to war. They've had issues relating to settlements in the country. But why are they selling 15 naira per liter? Currently, if you convert the dollar rate to naira, per liter of petrol in Libya is 15 naira.
Just imagine.
That's the cheapest all over the world. And the reason is not far-fetched. They subsidize heavily. They see fuel as something that the government needs to subsidize. They invest a whole lot in subsidy. So subsidy is the only way. And secondly, they have a whole lot of oil reserve. In Africa, they are the number one when it comes to oil reserve. They have a whole lot. They have over 38 billion reserve of crude oil. In the world, they are the 10th, and in Africa, they are the number one. So with the oil reserves that they have and the heavy subsidy on petrol, that is the reason why they are selling 15 naira per liter. And if you look at the chain, you have Angola. Angola sells 250 naira per liter. Algeria sells 270 per liter. Egypt sells 520 per liter. And Nigeria is the fifth. We selling 870, 900, 920, 930 per liter. So if you look at it, Nigeria should be even selling lesser than some of those countries, because we produce more. Yeah, we do 1.5 million barrels. Yes. Yeah, we do 1.5 million barrels per day. That's what we produce every day, against other countries that they do 1.3, 1.2. Libya produces 1.2 million barrels per day. That's even a bit below what we produce. So we should be able to buy fuel relatively low. But the government of the day is saying no, subsidy should go. That neighboring countries are benefiting from subsidies, because when you subsidize our product to 200 per liter, you see a whole lot of marketers, they export those products to neighboring countries and sell to 2,000 naira per liter and make over a 300 naira profit. So that's why the current government is saying subsidy is a scam and subsidy should go. Though I am in support of that we don't need subsidy, but there should be an alternative subsidy. We can't keep buying 900, 920 per liter, because it's going to affect inflation. Prices of everything would be on the rise. Transportation, food, and others will be on the rise. So the only alternative is the naira for cool deal that they're giving Dangote. Dangote, we have local refineries in Nigeria, Dangote and others. Come and get crude in naira. Possibly get crude in credit. With that, it's going to help them reduce price. So, but unfortunately, the naira for crude policy is not efficient enough. Out of the 350,000 barrel that was signed between the local refineries, or Dangote precisely, and the technical committee, they signed 350,000 barrels per day, which it's okay, like that's just 50% of Dangote's capacity. But currently, what he gets is below 150,000 barrels. That is equivalent to like 50 million liters daily. So he's getting far below. So 80% of what Dangote uses at his refinery is being imported. So he will need to source for dollar, buy, ship from US, because he buys more from US lately, ship from US down to Nigeria. So it's all of those costs will still keep our fuel price on the rise.
We can actually go on that, but we had another headline from Wednesday, 25th still, and this one says diesel prices soar across major filling stations nationwide. And still on midweek development, diesel prices are not left behind in this upward price spiral. And now, two questions in one. What exactly is pushing diesel prices higher in Nigeria right now, and how does this affect industries that may rely heavily on diesel?
First and foremost, diesel is a very critical part of our manufacturing system and our transport system. We know in Nigeria, a part of the country farm, while another part of the country consume. So we get more of our farm produce from the northern part, and we consume them more in the southern part. Transporting those farm produce from one point to another cost a lot because of the cost of diesel, because most of those trucks, they use diesel. Few years ago, a liter of diesel used to be 170, 200 naira. And when pepper or tomato is being produced in Benue or in Borno and it's being transported down here, they spend less than 100,000 naira for transport. But now that a liter of fuel is over 1,000 naira, they will add it to the cost of transportation. So when you produce pepper, tomato, yam in Benue, and the cost of that product is relatively low here, transporting it is like over a 500% increase. So they'll be spending close to 1 million naira to transport those produce. So with that, it will definitely affect prices. Yam at the market, you see a tuber of yam for 4,000, 5,000 naira. That is crazy because of the diesel cost. So I explained everything explicitly, that oil prices determines local prices, but so many countries of the world are doing a lot so that oil price will not influence it through subsidy. So many countries of the world still subsidize their petroleum products because they know the effects of removal of subsidy on their economy. So, well, for me, I feel that since the subsidy is gone, the naira for crude policy should be very, very efficient.
Definitely, it should.
So when you have your refineries in Nigeria here, and you get your crude in Nigeria, zero transport cost, zero exchange rate cost, zero port cost, zero Nimasa cost. You just get the crude from Port Harcourt, you bring it to Lagos Dangote Refinery, and you refine. Definitely you start buying petroleum products very, very low as 300, 400 naira, and inflation will drop immediately.
So away from pump prices, a top industry name is making headlines here, and this time it's totally off the field. And it says that this is the headline from Thursday, the 26th, says Umar Isa, I was not arrested. I voluntarily reported to EFCC. That's Umar Isa speaking right now. What is this about?
Basically, you've had fraud cases relating to the rehabilitation of some of the refineries, where they spent $7.2 billion in trying to rehabilitate those non-functional refineries. And the CFO was invited. They've invited so many of them. We had it on this show where they invited them for interrogation relating to so many funds that was found in different accounts. So we had it all over the news last week that he was arrested. So he came up with a statement that no, I wasn't arrested, I was invited and I honored the invitation. But by and large, I keep saying it, that we have holes in the oil and gas industry. We have so many loopholes that needs to be covered. For Nigerians hearing all of these amounts, that 900 billion is being found in the spending account, it kills the morale of a typical Nigeria, and even investors that are thinking of coming to Nigeria, it discourages them from coming. So the regulatory agency needs to do more to make sure that issues related to corruption should be tackled head on.
Allegations like this, actually impact, public trust in oil and gas institution, just like you've said. And but in a situation like this, looking at it in the future, should industry leaders be held to stricter public standards, considering their influence?
I feel recently there is this protest that the NNPC board flew to Kenya, Kigali, for a retreat. So people are saying, why are you guys doing this when Nigerians are buying petroleum products very, very high at the pump? And we keep hearing that, oh, you want to have a retreat, you need to fly out of Nigeria to have a retreat and all of that. So we need stringent policies when it relates to accountability. There's also one that the Senate gave an order that the NNPCL should report and clarify some issues relating to 200 billion naira. So I think we need stringent policies relating to financial misappropriation in Nigeria.
Yes, we do, and that takes us to Friday 27th. I think we're kind of running out of time, and the headline here says private depot sparks price war by undercutting Dangote.
Yeah.
And as the week nears its end, this is like a tough war, if you ask me. So what are the implications of this?
Last week, for the first time this year, private depots decided to sell below Dangote's price. Dangote came up last week that he has increased his price to 880 naira per litre. And private depots are working very hard to compete with Dangote. And they were able to achieve it. Some of the depots, NIMCO, IPEC, ATIO, and so on, they dropped their price below Dangote's price. So it has sparked price war. Dangote, hopefully, insiders gave us information that Dangote is most likely going to review their price anytime. Most likely today, we're going to hear a breaking that Dangote has reduced his price because oil prices are dropping at the moment, and there is the market force is playing out. There is an intense competition.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was about to say that.
Yeah. So with that, prices at the depot will drop. So we just hope that station owners, retailers, would quickly affect those prices. Because if we keep hearing that, oh, Dangote is using price, and station owners are not reducing their prices, Nigerians will not enjoy it.
Definitely.
So station owners should be quick. In 24 to 48 hours, we should start seeing it reflect at the pump.
Thank you so much, Olatide Jeremiah. Thank you for breaking the news roundup down for us. And lastly here, on Saturday says 5 hidden dangers of using expired gas cylinders. That's quite easy. You can head over to PetroleumPrice.ng to read up on that. And there you have it, the petroleum news update for last week. Right.